Hello sir, hello my dear friends. I, Anindita De, along with my team member Anish Paul, will here be discussing about the topic service recovery. Now what is service recovery? Service recovery is a procedure of solving the problems of the customer so that they become more satisfied and loyal towards the service provider. Now one of the economists, Theodore Levitt, he opines that one of the surest and signs of a bad or declining relationship is the absence of complaint from the customer. He said that the customers who does not make a complaint do not tend to maintain a long-term relationship with the service providers. Now the professionals or the service provider, they bear the responsibility of increasing the number of satisfied customers, and here they fail if they don't get the complaints from the customer. Okay, the retention will see a galloping increase only if the customers they are making the complaint. Now the research done by the TARP, that is a customer satisfaction and a measurement firm, revealed that on an average only 5 to 10% of the unsatisfied customers make a complaint, either because they are more hesitant of making the complaint or they are unaware. The research further revealed that the customers with higher socioeconomic background, they are making the complaint because they are confident, either because of their standard of living or because of their income level. So now what is the detailed means definition of service recovery? Service recovery is a procedure of dealing with the customer's problem and complaints. An effective and timely recovery procedure will help the customer to become satisfied and loyal towards the service provider. So the service recovery is trying to do something from the time when the situation from the situation when it went wrong. Now next is, what is service failure? So service failure is that when the service provider, they are performing a service, they are providing a service and which is not up to the expectation of the customer, then dissatisfaction happens. Now what are the reasons of failure? Number one, no promise service. For example, the service provider have promised a service to be provided and he have not provided the service on that particular date. For example, if we take the example of a car delivery showroom, the customer is said that he will have the car delivery on 5th of April. So he went to the showroom, but he saw that the car was not available in the showroom due to some technical defect. Okay, so here the promise is not made. Number two is delayed services. Now what is delayed services? For example, we can take the same example, delayed service. Now poor outcome. For example, the service provider have provided the service, but the outcome, that is the service outlet, the interior, the service personnel, then the delivery procedure was not up to the mark of the customer. Now what is service recovery? If the resolving the failures and problems of the customer, then it becomes a service recovery. Now next is, what does service recovery involve? Number one, solving customer's problem timely and quickly. Number two, giving the customer something of the value as compensation. So what may be the compensation in case of the car delivery showroom? So on 5th April, the customer came and he was not delivered the service. So here the service provider may do that. They may say the customer that, sir, we will deliver the car to your home after 2 days. You do not have to come to the showroom. So this may be one of the compensation for the customer. Now keeping the promises and follow-up. So after the delivery also, the follow-up will be kept. What was their experience with the service delivery showroom, whether the car is okay or not, like this type of follow-up. Now fixing service failure. So if we fix the service failure, what will be the outcome? Number one is that customer satisfaction. Obviously the customers will be satisfied. Second is positive word of mouth. The satisfied customer will refer to their friends, family, and they will have a positive word of mouth communication. And third is customer retention. They will be more loyal and they will stick to that service provider. Now next is customer response following service failure. Now if services failed, what may be the two means stages? Number one, that is the customers may take the action, and number two is that the customers may not take action. So may not take action means do nothing. So he may switch to the provider, and other he may try stay with the provider. Now stay with the provider either because the customers is unaware of other service provider providing the same service, and so he will stay with the same provider, or he will switch the provider. He will without making any complaint. Now other type of customers may take action. So take action, he may complain to the provider, he may complain to the friends, family, or the people who have referred him to such service provider, or he may complain to the third party, that is the agency. And after that, he may switch to other provider, or he may stick to the provider, he will stay with the provider. Now comes the service recovery paradox. Now what is service recovery paradox? Under service recovery paradox, there are two types of stages. First is when the customers does not make any complaint, and the second is the customers who make the complaint and get the service as per their the level of satisfaction. Now it is seen that it is found that the future responses of the second type of customers, the customers who are making complaint and getting the service delivered in a proper way, are more positive, and they tend to make means give a long-term relationship with the service providers, so then the customers who does not make any complaint at all. Okay. So here let us understand what is service recovery paradox. So service recovery paradox, in this side comes the customer loyalty, and in this side the service provided by the service provider. Now one type of graph you can see, that is the blue color graph. So this graph is the graph of the customers who does not make any complaint and who have not faced any failure of the service. So their graph goes like this. And another type of customers, that is the customers who are provided the service and they are not satisfied with the service provider, and here the service will fail. At this point the customer will means face some dissatisfaction. So here the service provider will provide a service, and here the service recovery takes place, and the graph will go even high than the customers who have not provided any complaint. So from this graph it is said that the customers who have service failure and who have complained to the service provider tend to become more satisfied than the customers who have not made any complaint. So this was all about my part, and the next part will be continued by Anish. Thank you.
Hello sir. So I will be continuing the topic responses of services to effective service recovery. So my part is responses of customers. So the responses of customers is basically after providing a service to the customers, the responses, the feedback that we get from the customers, whether the feedback are positive or those are negative. In case if the feedbacks are negative, we need to work on it. The service providers needs to make some alterations so that we can make the service beneficiary to the customers. Okay, so users to the service recovery, there are two kinds of users to the service recovery. One kind of users are those who think that the services are the service providers are very much honest, and they do not have any kind of grievances. In this case the services we do not need to make any alterations in our services. The next type of users are those persons, those who think that the services require changes, that is they give complaints to the service providers that this kind of changes are required and they are dissatisfied with the service. So the service providers must take necessary measures so that changes can be made to make the service much more beneficiary to the customers. So the next part is that measures for users to give feedback. So the service providers must make sure, they must make special efforts so that the customers, they feel free to make any kind of grievance, any kind of complaints. So there is no other kind of restrictions between them and the service provider so that they can make their specific complaints. So there are 4 things through which the customer can complain regarding the services. Number 1 is that adding a special toll-free phone number through which they can call and complain about their grievances. The next is the links on the website. In the links they can go and directly complain about the problem. Display of customer comment cards, and the last is the video terminals for recording complaints. So the next point is effective service recovery. By the term effective service recovery, we mean that how transparent, how effective and sound the service recovery process is. That is the customers, they should not feel that the service providers are being dishonest. So in such a case, the service recovery procedure should be proactive, planned, trained and empowered. Proactive means that the services, as soon as the complaint is received, on spot recovery measures should be taken so that the customer does not feel dissatisfied. Second is the planned. There must be contingency plans so that in case the customers are dissatisfied, there are other steps which can be taken on spot and the customers can be retained. The third is that the trained in the sense that customers should be made aware about the recovery skills. They must be the procedure must be transparent enough so that the customers are aware about the recovery skills. Okay, the third is the empowered the empowered means empowering the employees of the service providers. That means the employees must have must be given power in their hands, must be given that authority, so that they can take necessary steps and they can mm, make their decisions to provide satisfaction to the customers. The next part is components of an effective service recovery system. So there are 4 steps in this. Number 1 is effective complaint handling. Suppose let us take an example of any services. Suppose the logistic service, for example Blue Dart. All of us have ordered products in online handles such as Flipkart, Amazon, Myntra, etc. So there are logistic companies, those who are affiliated with the companies, right? So sometimes it happens that whenever we order a product, there is a scheduled time given in it within which we will receive the product. Now sometimes it happens that we can track the product, that the product is in our location, but the logistic company, they are not giving the delivery of the product. Or else there may be other problems also, such as in the application, in the Flipkart or Amazon or Myntra application, it is showing that the product has reached your area, but and they have given a contact number of the logistics company, and you try in that contact number and that it shows unavailable. So that is also a problem. So there may be many kind of complaints. So first step is to process the complaint, to give the complaint, to make the complaint reach to the particular uh, uh, company. Or suppose we can make complaint to the logistic company, and further we can make the complaint to Myntra or to Flipkart also, that such kind of grievances, we have such kind of grievances. Okay, the next step is to identify service complaints. It is the next step of the service providers, that to identify the complaints of the customers. uh, Suppose now take the example of Blue Dart. Earlier Myntra and Flipkart, they used to have their logistic partner as Blue Dart. Now there I don't think so Myntra um, has terminated it with Blue Dart due to this kind of issues. So so the problem was identifying the service complaints. They did not identify the service complaints, and they did not take it seriously. Okay, the next is resolve complaints effectively. So the next step is to resolve the complaints effectively. After identifying the service complaints, they must find out the areas, they must jot down the areas due to which the problems are arising. So they must take quick measures to resolve those problems. Learn from the recovery experience. The next step is to learn from the experience and to not continue such kind of faults, to not continue such kind of errors, so that the customers get dissatisfied. So these are the 4 areas. So the next is the service recovery and strategy. So service recovery must be considered as the part of the overall strategy. Okay, it must be not be distinguished from the service process, from the service entire process, because in every service company there are problems, there are complaints. So service recovery is a basic step. It must be taken as a part of the entire process. And also the customers, the staffs must be empowered and provided a platform for maintaining long-term relationship with the customers. In order to maintain long-term relationship, um, autocritic system in a service company will not prove to be healthy for the company, or will not prove to be beneficial for the long run of the company. So there must be transparency with the employees, and the staffs must be empowered with some authority, so that decisions can be taken and staffs can communicate well with the customers, so that they can take measures to, so that such kind of such kind of issues are not faced by the customers and they remain satisfied. The next is recognizing the current customers are valuable asset base. So this is an important point, that the service company must always remember that the current customer base is an valuable asset. So they must give every possible step, they must take every possible step to retain these customers, and to take any step so that they can make them satisfied with their service delivery. coming on to the next topic, that is service recovery strategies. In service recovery strategies, there are 5 kind of stages. So first of all, let us take an example. Suppose a food delivery company. In Silchar, there is a food delivery company called Food Hunt. So I faced problems in getting the delivery of food in that particular website. There is an application also, I guess, but I ordered it from the online portal. Okay. So while I ordered the food, there was no problem, but as soon as I received it, they took 10 rupees extra from me for the packing charges, which was not mentioned in the that is, while ordering in the website, it wasn't mentioned there. Or sometimes there are certain problems regarding the time that they mention that they will be giving the delivery within 10 minutes or so, and then they make excuses that this was restricted to only this much amount of kilometers. So this kind of problems may arise. So here are the stages that I need to explain by taking this example. Welcome and encourage the complaints. Suppose I gave the complaint and I also mailed it. I registered it in their complaint box, and also I told it to the delivery person that these are the problems. And the most famous excuse that they make is that taking the change, and they do not have change, right? So one time it's okay, two time is okay, but when it gets more and more time, when it becomes 10 rupees, then 20 rupees, so then it's loss for the customer. So they must keep these things in mind. Okay. So they must encourage this kind of complaints. Most of the services company in food delivery sector, they do not do so. And act quickly. The next step is to act quickly. They must register the complaints, and they must take necessary steps so that such kind of complaints do not reoccur the next time. Treat customers fairly. Whenever the customers are uh, lodging this kind of complaints, the company should always think that this is not an allegation. Most of the services, they do what this, they take it as an allegation, and they think that, we are giving it, all the customers are satisfied, why only this customer is doing so or giving the complaint. So they do not take it seriously. I think the complaints must be taken seriously so that they can make further changes and make it better and retain the customers. Okay. Learn from the recovery experience. So they must take it as a learning lesson. They must learn from the total experience, whatever they give it, which will help them to recover, which will help them to retain the further customers. Learn from the lost customers. So suppose this kind of application, such as I have mentioned, so they must learn it from the lost customers, that they need to make this thing, service recovery process, very much important, because this process, I guess, it is the most important step in service recovery. We have seen the product life cycle, from the after the maturity period, we must make changes so that so that our company does not loses customers. So this is same in here. The service company must also take into consideration that the customers, they must take into consideration the fact of retaining the customers, and mm, at the end of the day, saving their business. So that is it. Thank you very much.